Hey, Mark, if age matters so much in whiskey, how come my favorite whiskey is only 6 years old?
Well, that's a great question, Dan. Hey, this is Mark Still with The Practical Still. I'm here with Dan Cavallari. We're in the garage, which I think we should now term the world headquarters of The Practical Still.
The practical headquarters.
Yeah, and that's a great question. So why is that? Age matters. If we all chase the old whiskey, if even this time of year we're all hoping that this is the year we finally get a 17-year-old stag or something like that, how come you're a huge Booker's homer? I'm a Booker homer too, but how is it that that's one of our favorite whiskeys and it's 6, 7 years old tops?
Yeah, I mean, so there's got to be other factors that go into making a good whiskey than just leaving it in the barrel for a very long time.
And it certainly could be our immaturity at figuring out what's good. But
It's
you know
true.
what you like. You like what you like. You drink what you like.
Well, and I drink a lot of, since I met you, thanks. Yeah. I drink a lot of
Finish the statement, because now it just sounds like you drink a lot because you met me.
Well, I drink a lot, but not because of you. No, I drink a lot of different whiskeys, and I have come to the conclusion that at this point I sort of know the path I am taking, for my tastes. And I know when I've strayed from that path. It occurs to me very quickly after I open a bottle and taste it.
Unfortunately, you've spent the money by the time you get to that curve in the path.
Yeah, exactly. Which, that's part of the fun, though, and then you have these bottles to share. And actually, I had some old friends over last night, and not a whiskey drinker. And, he tasted the first bottle and said, oh, this is definitely what I expected from a cheap bottle of whiskey. And then I handed him something else that's not too much more expensive. He says, wow, this is amazing, So, even somebody who's new to that path, it's easy to start to figure out what you like and what you don't like. And I just happen to know that Booker's is kind of like my unicorn. It is my perfect bottle.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a bottle of Booker's that I didn't like yet, and it's only 6 years old.
I think that's something to be said too, because you certainly get bottles that, and Booker's, for those that don't know, Booker grandson or great-grandson of Jim Beam, started the whole small batch concept in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was Booker's, Baker's, Basil Hayden, and Knob Creek in that small batch collection.
Yeah.
And modeled after the way figures in Jim Beam like their whiskey. So Booker, like his grandfather, liked his whiskey right out of the barrel.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what Booker's is. It's uncut, unfiltered. So it's whatever proof that batch of barrels comes out to be, there you go.
That's what it is.
It is a mouthful of bourbon.
It sure is.
And there are certain flavors, but I think it is worth noting that it comes out 3 times a year or 4 times a year. 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah, 3, I think.
And
or no, 4. I don't know.
And they've got chances to screw that up.
Yeah.
And yet they don't. Mm-hmm. And it's I think early on it might have been some 8-year releases, but these days they're between 6 and 7 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't do a bad one with that. Is that owed to Beam just knows how to distill whiskey?
Right.
And they don't really make bad whiskey?
Right.
Or something else going on there?
Yeah, and I think that's probably the answer right there, right? Like there's age, which I think helps a lot, obviously. If you're sitting in a barrel, it's gonna help that whiskey, gain its flavor. But, I think real good distillers know what else it takes, the location in the rick house and, what barrels go with what barrels if you're doing, that kind of blending. And, there's just so many other things that can affect the flavor. But I think Booker's, man, clearly Beam's been at it for a long time. And I think, just like we've talked about in the past, once you develop what you like, right, your flavor, you know what you're looking for in a bottle. It's probably the same with distillers, right? They know what flavor they're after.
There you
go. And so they know what goes in the bottle and it gets called Booker's or Beam or whatever.
And it's not like it's a mystery to them either. It's the same mash bill.
Yeah.
They've got variables as it relates to the time of the year, the grain selection, a whole bunch of variables.
Right.
But I think they kind of have a feel for that.
Yeah.
And they've got a good process.
I actually think it's harder than, with just the same mash bill. You think about all these different distilleries now, or excuse me, not even distillers, they're just blenders essentially, taking this whiskey and that whiskey and putting it into a bottle and trying to find this perfect balance.
Yeah.
To me, that almost seems easier than saying, okay, we only have this one mash bill,
Yeah, it's a good point. And in a lot of whiskey cultures, Japanese whiskey, in particular, the master blenders are the rock stars in that world, where the master distillers are in this world. But that's changing a bit. So barrels, craft spirits, Barrel Bourbon's one of those, and that they're a non-distilling producer. And so they spend a lot more time on the blends of the straight whiskeys.
Right.
And then even now Michter's, Michter's has got a master of maturation. I think they all do, but they call it out more. Brown Foreman, Jackie Zykan, the master taster, she was largely responsible for that one controversial whiskey between the two of us, the rye.
Yeah, right.
The Old Forester rye that we like. She also is instrumental in picking the birthday bourbon every year. She's the one that picks the preliminary barrels for the presidential selection. So the blenders and the tasters are getting a bigger role. And I think you're right, though. Maybe if you had all the whiskey in the world to pick from, and you didn't, that's one of their things is, once we do this one, you'll never taste it again.
Right.
It's a little harder to be consistent.
For sure.
And so, small batch too, speaking of Booker's, there's no rule about what makes a small batch. So I've heard anywhere from 100 to 300 barrels going into a Booker's batch. Not exactly small, but in relation to what Beam produces on a given day, that's pretty small.
Yeah.
But even then, how do you maintain something that still tastes like Booker's every time? So it is a challenge.
I just want to back up and just note the master of maturation, which basically just sounds like you're good at getting old. Like I want to be,
or it sounds like a Megadeth record.
Yeah, right. Master of maturation. I want to be that. Also, we should drink something.
I want to point out we're 6 minutes plus into this. I have no whiskey
empty
in my glass.
Yeah, the 2 empty glasses. That's shameful.
So part of this thinking as we got into this was if age is so important. So we've both brought a bottle that's got a lot of age on it. So you've got a barrel, a local pick from Barrel that's based on the label, a Tennessee whiskey, and it's 14 years old, which means it came from Dickel.
Yep.
There's just not any other age whiskey. All Barrel stuff is barrel strength, unfiltered. I'm old, Dan, and I thank you for holding the bottle up, but I can't see the proof from here. What's the proof on that one?
115.96.
Yeah, so interesting because it cast strength at 115. That would maybe suggest it went in the barrel lower proof. You can go in at a max of 125. I don't remember what Dickel's entry proof is, if they're one of the ones that still go in pretty low.
Right.
But I think a lot of factors affect that. But that's a good one. So that's 14 years old. Then I brought the recently released Knob Creek 15-year-old limited edition that I hope becomes a regular edition, not a limited edition. That one's bottled at 100 proof. It is likely chill filter since they don't call out that it isn't.
Right.
And a little controversy around that as well. People say, well, why would I pay $100 for a 15-year-old knob at 100 proof when there's plenty of barrel picks and store picks and all that at 120 proof for $60? I don't know. But I do know that Fred No, Booker's son, probably knows how to pick good barrels from the warehouse. He's probably squirreling some away. Let's hope he used some for that. I've been into that. I did an open the bottle video on that last week. That whiskey's fabulous. But let's try tasting some of that.
You want to start with that?
Yeah.
So that's the oldest on the table here.
Okay, let's start there and go backwards because if age matters.
Yeah. All right. Oh, it's a synthetic cork.
It still made a decent sound, though.
I'm going to let you pour your own.
Yeah, because you always... we got a few whiskeys to drink, and if I let you pour...
Yeah, I do on-the-floor pours.
I might make it to the end of the night, but look at that, and then I did it, too.
And you did it yourself.
Yeah, sorry.
I say I could have done that.
Oh, my God, this smells good.
All right, so this is the knob.
You haven't had this, right?
I have not. This is
and what's your general position on Knob Creek? It's because it's awfully closely related to Booker's.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Knob is sort of one of those ones that I have a real easy time just sort of like glancing over, and moving on to something else when I see it on the shelf, which is unfair to Knob. But I think it was because, Knob Creek is not, it's one of those whiskeys that kind of everybody knows at this point. And so
I'm having a moment over here.
This. You just keep talking.
Dan. Oh, that's good.
It does smell good. Yeah, so I've always had Knob, just nothing specials, on the shelf, and so to me it wasn't anything special. It wasn't worth kind of spending my money and time on, especially as I got more into bourbon and I wanted to try different things and new things that I had never even seen before. But it's nice to come back to it. So this will be interesting, and this is definitely exceptional Knob Creek. It's not your normal stuff.
In our time with whiskey, that's the oldest. It's been released. Even the other limited editions, we're generally not that old.
Wow.
God, that's good.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so remember, this comes off the still. It could just as easily have ended up in a barrel that was Booker's.
Yeah.
It's the same mash bill. This is the lower rye mash bill from Beam that goes into Booker's Booker's Baker's Knob, all the other Jim Beam, the white label, the black double oak, all that stuff. It is not what goes into Basil Hayden Old Granddad.
God,
that's good.
The finish is different than a Booker's, though, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're 20 something proof points lower, and we've been filtered. We've been chill filtered. But it just, how can you nose a glass of distilled spirit and go cake?
What kind of cake, more importantly?
God, it's just
birthday cheese.
Well, let's don't say birthday because that's an
That's
old
Old
Forester reference.
We can't step on.
But it's
toes
definitely
here.
it's a white cake. It's a spongy white cake.
Yeah, that's the vanilla you're getting
with a little buttercream icing. God damn, that's good. I'm sorry, excuse the language, but that is it's so good.
Yeah, that is really. Yeah, it's like the vanilla, but like cream, like butter.
It is
like
buttery.
buttercream. Yeah,
and look, we do this all the time. Everything I drink doesn't have to be barrel proof.
right.
Some of my favorite whiskeys are 90 proof.
Yeah,
But I will say, if I was going to fault this so far, and you can see how much I opened this last week, I did the little video. I've had a little bit of it. We're about a quarter of the way through the bottle.
yeah.
If I could pick it one thing, it could use 10 more proof points.
Do you think so?
I mean, it is mostly just to keep me from drinking it so fast.
Well, I'm happy to help empty it for you if that's a concern for you.
I haven't had a problem with that.
No, seriously, clearly you're going to drink that much of it.
I was counting up bottles that need to be just finished off.
Yeah.
And I started to move them somewhere else, but it was pretty much there was 12 bottles that need to be
Yeah.
clean. Anyway, that is delicious.
You know what's funny about this is that, and this is not a fair comparison at all, but because this is such a complex flavor and it's really good, I do think you're right on the birthday cake, vanilla kind of cake flavor. But it's the finish. I'm trying to identify that finish. It kind of has that Old Tub finish, the same sort of like.
It is the same whiskey.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting. And Old Tub is definitely not as complex as this, but.
All I can pay attention to on the finish so far is that it's forever.
Yeah, it does last.
I mean, if you just walk away, it's just there for 10 or 15 minutes.
Well, I don't know because I keep drinking it.
Yeah, it's hard to know when the finish starts and ends if we keep drinking.
Yeah, right.
But, as it sits there, it's on the sides of my tongue.
I get it way in the back.
Yeah, but sides way in the back. But it's a cola. It's it's like a light cherry cola. Mm-hmm. It's delightful.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I do not regret spending $100 on that. And I'm sure there are some absolutely fabulous store pick or club pick knobs that you can get for $50 or $60 that you'd be happy at it. And some of those can be up to they can be 12, 13, 14, 15 years old.
Yeah. Man, this is really good.
Yeah, and I do drink a fair amount of knob. And like you, now some part of the way I do that is like you do, and that there's usually a bottle of the regular old 100 proof. It was non-age dated for a few years.
Yeah.
For old fashions and Negronis, Boulevardiers and some cocktails, fun to sip on too. This is just, it's the same whiskey, but I haven't had a sip now in 2 minutes, and I've just got this cherry cola thing just sitting there, just all day long. I think it's fabulous.
No, I think
so in this case, age. I can tell you age matters here because I've had a lot of whatever non-age dated and now the 9-year-old knob. They brought that age statement back. I've had a lot of that whiskey.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I've never had a Knob Creek I don't like.
Yeah.
That does not entertain me like this one does. This has got way more going on.
It's funny, the nose, there's a lot of that vanilla, but there's also a little bit of oak, but you don't actually get too much oak in the actual flavor profile.
Well, when I first opened it, the oak was pretty strong up front. It was dry, but about the time I thought that's dry oak, it transitioned into a really sweet oak somehow. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But there's definitely oak in there. You can't avoid that at 15 years old. But everything else is there, that there's this balance that I'm incredibly impressed by the balance of it.
To me, the oak is quick and it's on the front of the tongue, and then it's kind of gone and gives way to the vanilla and the cherry.
Maybe, to me, it's there in a thing that screams oak.
Yeah.
And then the oak blends into the baking spices and the things that make me think cake.
Yeah.
So I think it's there all the time. I just think that it's not astringent or not dry.
So that's a long way of saying we really like this one. That's great.
That's fabulous.
And this will be an interesting transition into other bottles that we have on the table here.
Should we do a little introduction?
Yeah.
So we've introduced Mr. Knob Creek.
And we talked
not
about
that you're a knob. We got the barrel going. Now, the barrel distilled in Tennessee because thankfully barrel craft spirits, barrel bourbon, super transparent. And so we know that distillation stayed on all the bottles. This was distilled in Tennessee at that age. Hard to imagine it didn't come from Dickel. I've not had that one, although I have the version before that, the release before that.
Right.
But we'll see.
Wait till you taste this thing, man.
Well, we know what a George Dickel homer I am. I love their whiskey. So
you're going to love this.
But we're also going to open up, which biscuits was that?
And it's not the biscuits. It's the Country Ham.
Country Ham. We're going to open up a Country Ham Booker's.
Yeah.
And then just for fun, we're going to look at some younger whiskeys, but both bottled in bond. So Dan's got a
Boulder Spirits.
A Boulder Spirits, because we are here in the Boulder, Denver area. This is a bonded bourbon, straight bourbon whiskey, bonded. So it's at least 4 years old.
Yep.
And then just to throw the cat amongst the pigeons on the bottled and bond thing, I brought the Mellow Corn. But somewhere in the middle, I also brought the recently released Elijah Craig Small Batch Toasted Barrel.
Yeah.
You can tell how I like that one, because that bottle was
almost gone.
Was open. Stop it! My wife drank some of it, at least an ounce. She drank, and
I'm a big Elijah Craig fan, so I don't blame you at all.
I may have given samples to people. I didn't drink all that myself.
Yeah. Yeah, sure you didn't.
No, I did. That's darn good whiskey, and
Elijah Craig never sticks around long on my shelf.
No. And we'll talk about that one. But that's the lineup for tonight. We got the 15-year-old knob. We got a 14-year-old barrel that looks to be some Dickel stock.
Yeah.
We've got a bottle of Booker's, a well-regarded release of Booker's, and then a couple of outliers to see how we all lay in there.
I think it should be noted, too, that the Mellow Corn is perhaps the first bottle that we've had on the podcast that has a plastic cap on it.
It does.
No cork to pop here.
I gotta say, I knew that was there when I opened it, but I opened it and I went, plastic, screw. What am I doing? What am I doing?
This stuff is so popular too. It's funny. So
it has found a home in trendy
smell
bars.
I gotta smell it.
Yeah,
I've never had Mellow Corn.
I had not either. In fact, I had not had a corn whiskey. I didn't even know.
I can't smell anything.
I didn't. There you go. I did not even. I did not know that there are actual separate rules for straight corn whiskey, separate from straight bourbon whiskey, straight rye whiskey.
This looks like something that, you're watching a horror movie and the main character who's about to get murdered by the axe murderer is drinking this straight from the bottle.
Yeah.
That's what this looks like.
If anybody comes and says, I'm from the past, keep that bottle in, 'cause that label has not changed in forever. It is fluorescent.
It's got the bourbon itself has a
excuse me, the
whiskey. Sorry, the whiskey.
The corn whiskey.
The corn whiskey has the color of a white wine. This is going to be an interesting one.
Well, and we'll talk about those specs there, but that's owed to the rules around that. It can't be in a new barrel like a new charred barrel.
See,
cool. All right, so we've had the knob. We like the knob. We believe the years matter in that knob. I like saying knob. Knob. So let's move on.
Do we want to go down in age, or do we want to go like extremes?
I want to go down. I want to step down in age.
Okay. So, all right, put the knob over here. So next is the barrel, and this is a store pick, EWS Colorado exclusive, number 5, cask strength barrel. Now I already cracked this, and I could probably still do an open the bottle on this because I just cracked this on Friday night, and it was funny. My wife tasted some too, and she did not like it.
She didn't like it?
No, but again, it's that.
Oh, that's good.
Mark's having another moment. You want me to do that again?
That's good.
Yeah, right. Hang on. Ready?
Well, I don't know. I like it when it surprises me. God, that's fabulous.
It does have a good cork. I like it a lot, but it's... Well, I don't want to ruin it for you because, I think, to me, you and I had a discussion not too long ago about Dickel. And I think this really fits the narrative of how we feel about Dickel, and we'll get to that in a moment, but I'll let you pour yourself first.
I'm going to sneeze.
Sorry, give me that back. Don't sneeze.
No, I'm not going to sneeze now. Never mind. Saying I'm going to sneeze stopped me from sneezing.
So anyway, this is...
You think that's Dickel?
You think? Yeah. It's very Dickel, guys. It's a $100 bottle. So, this was, for me, an investment, and I was a little worried because I'd never had much barrel except for what Mark had given me at his house. And then we had that Dovetail, which was phenomenal. And so I was pretty convinced that this is the next bottle I needed to open.
And by the way, so we are the practical still. We've now opened 2 bottles. We're at $200 total. Is that practical?
No.
Well, no, I don't know. Practical's a relative thing. In a world where, and we live near Distillery 291, great story, cool guy that started that thing. you got 18-month, 2-year-old whiskey wants $100 a bottle. For.
Yeah.
I want to try it. I want to support it. But I do think that in today's market, relative to what gets $150, $200 price tags,
Right.
that a 14-year-old whiskey that clearly came from one of my favorite distilleries at $100 at barrel strength,
Right.
Not filtered.
Right.
I don't think that's impractical. I would call that a practical for an enthusiast. Now the new person walking in off the street, no,
Not
way.
going to buy that. Yeah.
But for people that are into whiskey, that I mean, it's hard to get a well-aged spirits
Right.
at that price point.
Well, and by comparison, I mean, the Booker's is also $100, and that's a 6-year, and that's the topic of our
There you go.
episode today. So, I mean, you know, you play those off each other, and it really comes down to flavor. But if you're walking into a store and you don't know any better, you know, you're going to say, okay, I can get a $100 bottle of 6-year whiskey or $100 bottle of 14-year whiskey. What are you going to go with? You know, Mark's eyes just bugged out of his head.
Oh dear, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So now, what I wanted to bring up a moment ago.
I don't want to miss your point you just mentioned though, because I was actually trying to listen.
Yeah.
While I was having a moment with
It
this
is hard
barrel.
to listen to me. Let's be honest.
It's just hard to listen when something this good is in my glass. But you make a really good point. $100, 14-year-old, $100, 15-year-old versus $100, 6.5-year-old. If you only pay attention to age, you're not going to buy Booker's.
Right.
I think you're going to miss out on something really exciting.
Phenomenal.
Also, I remember when I could buy Booker's, and hadn't been in this that long.
I
but,
cry every time you say this,
but my first bottle of Booker's, I paid $54 or $56.
No, that makes me like you less.
It was 2000.
Actually, when you say that.
2012, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cheapest I've ever bought Booker's was $79. So
Yeah. Well, I liked it so much I didn't keep any of it.
Yeah.
So at least I can't rub it in your
Yeah.
nose with the bottle I paid
Right.
that for. It's been gone for years.
So this barrel,
This is outstanding.
it's still dancing on my tongue here. And the one
my
thing that we
God.
talked about with Dickel before is that it has its own thing. It is so different than any other flavor profile out there. And what I liken it to, and like I said, my wife didn't like it. And she, you know, my wife drinks a lot of whiskey too. She knows what she likes. She did not like this, and to her it was like this turpentine paint thinner kind of flavor profile. I don't get that at all. To me, it's like this spicy clove, and Dickel is its own thing. And the way I liken it is, if you're a beer drinker, this is like a sour, and you have to kind of have a taste for sours, and also know the difference between a good sour and a cheapo sour just has sugar in it. You know, this is a funky flavor in a lot of ways.
It is very funky,
Yeah.
and I freely admit it. But
Yeah.
I'm also an incredible fan of it.
Yeah.
This may be my favorite thing I know came out of that distillery.
Yeah, I mean, so we just drank that 15-year-old knob, which was great. I would choose this barrel every day over that.
They're just so different. though.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not. That's like I'll ride a road bike or a mountain bike. They're just different.
I mean, this is different than anything. I mean, this is so Dickel. The flavor profile of Dickel is just unlike anything else.
I just want some sort of apparatus that holds the glass in front of my nose.
well, if you lay face down on the ground and you just prop your nose
Actually, I
in it.
have that apparatus because we're in the COVID era. I can pour a little of this on my mask,
There you go.
and I will smell this all the way home.
That is looking on the bright side of life right there.
That's good. Oh well, look. So let me say for sure though, this is all Dickel. Now I don't know when Dickel sells these barrels. I don't know if they Lincoln County process everything they produce. I have read some things that say that not everything they produce gets the Lincoln County process. That could be why this is so good. That it's their whiskey, but it didn't go through. And for those that don't know, Lincoln County process is they distill the spirit. The unaged spirit gets filtered through charcoal.
Yeah.
Maple charcoal.
Right.
At Dickel, if I remember correctly, it is 13 feet total. Because I saw them, I was there. It's a great. If you ever get to go to that distillery in Tullahoma, it's a quaint little place.
Yeah.
And beautiful. But it goes through 13 feet very slowly of maple charcoal, and then this. It looks like a. If you ever did a cold brew in a toddy cold brew maker, there's this thick white filter at the bottom. That's what that last thing it filters through.
Okay.
So it pulls out a lot of the esters, and they tell you on the tour that George Dickel, when he was distilling his whiskey, he noticed that in the cooler seasons, the whiskey was, that word I hate, smoother.
Yeah.
And that's where he came up with this idea of chilling the whiskey and then filtering it through the charcoal. I don't know if all of it goes through that.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess this didn't.
Yeah.
Because that has just got a lush. It is so luscious.
It's like a full body experience.
It
I mean,
is.
it's just-
It is. And that whole time I've rambling about filters. I just still have that cherries and popcorn or peanuts. Or
well, boy, and the finish is like maple syrup.
It is. It not only in the flavor, there's a syrupy, but there's a syrupy mouthfeel to it.
This is phenomenal.
God.
I mean, I'm hesitant to start liking this too much because the barrel will disappear.
Yeah, and you know, that's the hard thing about something like barrel. So with the knob, that says limited edition, but for the record, so did the 12-year-old when it first started. Right. But at least you have a chance to go buy that. If you don't live in Colorado, you can't buy that.
Right.
And so let's give people a frame of reference. If you want something close, there are other barrel releases that have aged Tennessee whiskey in it that's going to get you in that ballpark. But there are also other brands that source that older whiskey from Tennessee as well.
I was going to ask because so if I'm not in Colorado and I want something like with this flavor profile and I see something on the shelf that's a Tennessee whiskey that's 14 years, I mean, is it a safe bet? It's
a safe bet that came from Dickel. There are quite a few newer distilleries popping up. Obviously, there could be some old Jack Daniels, but frankly, I don't think Jack Daniels sells their whiskey like that on a contract basis.
This tastes nothing like Jack. I mean,
no, you'd know it in a heartbeat. Yeah. I'm just thinking anything else that came from.
Well, I mean,
Tennessee.
that's what I mean. So there's your breadcrumbs, like a 14-year-old Tennessee whiskey.
It probably came from there,
Jack. Yeah. I mean,
of course, now if you were lucky enough to buy the first release of the George Dickel Bottled and Bond, that was a 13-year-old. I've had it. I can tell you it does. It
taste like that.
It hadn't got any. It tastes kind of like it, but it hadn't got anywhere near the legs this guy's got. Speaking of legs, I mean, it just coats the glass like crazy too.
This is a special bottle.
It is, but if you're looking for something similar, and you can't come hang out, and by the way, if you do get to Colorado, come by Dan's Garage. We'll hang out. We'll record some podcast stuff.
Please knock first.
But if you can't do that, what you're looking for are people that are sourcing whiskey that came from Tennessee, and not everybody's as transparent as that, but that's going to get you in the ballpark of this. I would, I wish I didn't have to pay $100 a bottle for whiskey, but goodness, I'd give up $3 bottles for that one.
I mean, this is
$100 bottle.
This is worth $100, no doubt. In fact, there's still a couple of these bottles on the shelf down at Spirits. I might go grab another one.
There will be at least one less soon. Yeah. By the way, those sirens are not for Dan and I. We did not.
We don't think anyway.
We're pretty sure we didn't do anything.
Yeah. I'm not. I am wearing pants, so we're good. I had to check.
I wouldn't have been this relaxed if you were sitting there without pants on.
Well, the barrel to me is so far. I mean, we've only tasted 2 out of the 6 bottles. So
I tried to tell you they were just different when you said you like it better than the knob, but I got to tell you that is outstanding.
It is. I think this might be. I mean, like I said, you guys have heard it enough if you've listened to our podcast that I love Booker's, and I'm a big, as you said, a homer for Booker's. And it probably sounds inauthentic at this point. Believe me, we're not being sponsored by anybody but My Garage.
We take it. We're not saying our journalistic integrity is that high.
But
nobody's offered yet.
But I think behind Booker's, this barrel is just
that's amazing.
That might be.
I got to tell you, just barrel in general. When you and they
impressive.
Yeah, and they started this before I think barrel prices got terribly expensive. So I don't know where they store a lot of this stuff. I did hear, not to mention other podcasts, but Bourbon Pursuit had Tripp Stimson on, who's their master distiller, which I don't know why he has that title, so they don't distill anything. But
we're going to bleep that out in the recording.
At least people listen to theirs. But he was incredibly knowledgeable. I listened as he walked through the distilling process. So I think between that and Joe Beatrice, who owns Barrel, his willingness to spend the money to do things right. I mean, they are just finding the barrels. In fact, it makes me want to go get some of their rum. And he even admits they don't know a lot about rum. They just like it, so they bought a bunch of barrels.
It would be fun now that I'm thinking of it, and we should maybe do this.
Does it include drinking more?
Yeah, we should totally drink more. See, I'm an idea man.
All your ideas start with let's drink more.
Well, the barrel, and this is sort of a different thing, but the barrel versus the mash build bourbons, which mash build, they right on the front of on their label. And this is another Colorado guy, by the way. I think he's out in, I want to say Aurora, and he basically has on the front of the label. It explains everything that goes in. It doesn't say brand or anything like that, but it says 14-year rye or 12.
But there's like 12 things.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to kind of, I mean, if we had money to buy, 3 or 4 of each, I mean, to do just sort of, tastes of see what alchemy, this magic over here versus this alchemy.
I guess that dials down to where's the talent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If there's talent in picking and blending,
Right.
Well,
Well,
that's how you tease that out.
Yeah,
Of
well, and that's why I mentioned mash bill, because the few bottles that I've had 3 bottles of that now, and it's always been excellent.
Yeah.
And barrel, same thing. I've had 3 bottles of that, well, including the 2 that you bought, and they've always been excellent.
Well, I have another one, but I had a batch 17 barrel bourbon, and that was Tennessee and Indiana whiskey,
Yeah.
and it had, the same characteristics of what we're drinking
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
but just less of it. And I
Yeah.
think it's because it was infected by some Indiana whiskey. But I really like that one. But this is
Something else.
a concentrate, and the color on it. By the way, I hate
I
that
know.
nobody can see it, but that color is just ebony and dark, and it's gorgeous.
It actually looks like maple syrup.
It does. It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's the darkest thing on the table.
Well, maybe the Bookers. I don't
Maybe
know.
the box of Booker's is that dark,
Yeah.
but there's no whiskey that's that
Yeah.
dark on it, and it's it's just
Yeah, it is
gorgeous.
good.
And
I-
it just feels delicious on the.
Yeah, everything about it, the presentation down to the taste.
You're
and
gonna
the
find some
finish.
sample bottles before I leave.
Oh yeah, no, I got you. Don't you have a bottle of this at home?
No, well, yeah, I do.
see, it comes out.
Okay, so I do. I don't have the number 5. I have the number 4. I don't know, but I don't know. I bought that a year ago.
okay.
I don't know if it's
send you
all
the sample.
Tennessee whiskey.
I'll send you the sample. We're straying pretty far from our topic today.
What was our topic? Let's drink good whiskey.
Yeah, let's get
No.
drunk
So,
on
but no,
good
I don't
whiskey.
think we are. So, the topic is if age matters so much,
Mm-hmm.
why is their favorite bourbon 6 years old? Now, this has just set it up perfectly because we have done nothing but fawn over the 29 years worth of whiskey,
Yeah,
a 15 and a 14.
Right.
We're going to have to open the Bookers and
Yeah.
find out: are we disappointed?
Right.
Are our allegiances?
Changing.
Are they rewarded?
yeah.
Because I don't want to open that and take a sip and tell everybody that
yeah.
I don't like Bookers anymore.
Oh man, I don't think that's going to happen. You haven't had the country ham yet either.
I have not.
Oh man, you're in for a treat. We may have to swish some water in our mouths before we.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, so we've done the barrel.
Yep.
We've done the knob.
Yep.
Now we've got the
We got based on the time spent, we like the barrel a lot.
a lot. Yes.
We're gonna have to pick up the pacer then.
Yeah. Well, we've got the Mellow Corn.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got, which is bottled in bond. We got the Boulder Spirits, which is bottled in bond. We got the Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel.
Yeah.
Which is not an age statement, as far as I can tell.
No,
And then we got the Bookers. So what's next?
I think if my 2 cents is we open the Bookers because I want to know right now after those 2 fine examples of well-aged whiskey,
Okay.
does our mutual admiration club version hold up?
It's so one of the bad things about Bookers is this thick wax. It might take me a few minutes to actually open this.
I hate wax. Do you? May I?
I'm in a garage full of tools. I have saws.
May I video you
Please.
so that you can? Because the only way I can get you to do an open the bottle video is to actually take the video.
I know. I'm so horrible
Lazy.
at it. I got to get set up.
Not like you don't have 9 things going on.
All right, so we're opening this Booker's Country Ham. This may take me about 5 to 10 minutes, but we're going to get this wax seal off. Actually, the wax is coming off.
This is an
Easily for a change.
Yeah, but it's also going all over your garage. It's
Yeah.
bouncing all over the place.
Obviously,
I
I
hate barrel
keep a
wax,
clean
but-
shop here.
Well, I thought that was interesting. So if you think Dan's only hoarding tendencies are whiskey,
Yeah, no.
this angle right here will prove
Yeah.
that all incorrect.
I've got other things. Hey, synthetic cork.
I know. I'm so disappointed in Jim Beam that on the better whiskeys they don't.
I'm gonna pour.
Well, no, we're
a
opening the bottle.
splash, A splash. A splash. A splash for you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And I gotta actually finish my,
Yep.
my barrel first. All right. So country ham.
Country
So-
ham and specs on that age and proof, please.
So 6 years, 4 months, 2 days. 124.7 proof. This is the 2019, the third release of Booker's for that year. So far, and I've had this bottle. This would be my 3rd bottle of this, by the way. Phenomenal. I don't even have to cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, I can tell you it's wonderful.
Oh my God, that's lovely.
Isn't it?
That's just
Yeah.
a bucket of cinnamon and
I know. So this is why we're Booker's homers, because it's just every bottle has just been so good, and of the excellent bottles that I've had, this might be the best. The one before this was the Shiny Barrel release, the 2019-2, and people kind of flayed it online and called it too hot, and it wasn't as complex. I really liked it until, and I still like it, but man, once I had Country Ham, this just blows it away.
So far, my favorite of all and I've had a bunch of Bookers. Teresa's batch has been my favorite.
Yeah.
Relatively recent. It was the second last. That's so good.
Oh my God.
But let me tell you that it is good. But can you not tell? Do you not feel age difference there?
I do. And that comes through mostly on the finish. Well, not even the finish, like the mid-tongue. You get more of the alcohol.
I just get more new oak up front.
There is more oak for sure. I get a lot of but it's, to me, it's like a tempered oak, but it's a campfire, like a s'mores kind
Well,
of.
I think that's earlier in the life of the char.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're tasting. And it's funny, we talked about Old Tub earlier and how I keep tasting this charred oak.
Yeah.
And it's here too.
Yeah, to me, so the nose in particular is like mesquite campfire. Like
Now, I will say this, because you and I know I asked you to quit pouring me so heavy, but you freaking shorted me. That's all that was in the glass.
I
will tell you that once that ends,
is that good? Too much?
Yeah, that's good.
No,
That's
all
good.
right, good.
Once that fresh young char ends, after that finish holds up against any of the other two that we had.
I think there's just like a pop of the char, and then it's a long experience of other flavors, and I think that's what's so unique about this. Because I don't necessarily dislike that char flavor. I like it, in fact. But I think, and you've said this before, is I think a lot of young whiskeys and distillers try to mask other things with that flavor.
Yeah.
Booker's is not like that. To me, Booker's, that char is sort of interwoven with the flavor.
That's the point. The char is there, so you can tell that it hasn't had time to fully integrate.
As far as I can tell,
a 14-year whiskey would, but I also get the orange.
Yeah.
I also get the cinnamon.
Yeah.
You get all that at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, every bourbon has that char flavor to some extent.
Yeah,
I mean,
guess.
Because that's like to me, that's the telltale sign, right? Like you want the oak to come forward so people know this spent time in a barrel, right? Like that's part of the story of bourbon.
If you pour me a little extra like a normal person, the nose on this is outstanding.
It's really wonderful, and I get lemon, like a little bit of citrusy kind of flavor.
Citrus rinds. I mean, it's just a
little bit of mesquite campfire.
Yep. All right, so let's see. No big surprise. Dan opens a bottle of bourbon.
It's wonderful.
It's Booker's.
Yeah.
He likes it.
Yeah.
He's going to keep buying more.
Yes.
So if you have any, Bookers you don't like, Dan's your outlet there.
If you see me walk into a liquor store and you're a liquor store owner, you see me coming, just start throwing Booker's bottles at me. And I'll buy them all.
All right, cool. So I'll wrap up that. So you will promise everybody, me mostly, that you're going to go back to the bottle in a month or so.
Sure.
Right, cool.
If it lasts that long.
Well, whatever. Next week. Just before you finish
Tomorrow.
it. Before you finish it. Put the camera and tell us what you think.
You got it.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Booker's to me never disappoints, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about it is, it's a 6-year bottle, 6 to 7 years, right? And that's what they bottle it at, and so, but it is now $100, which, that
it's getting tough.
That sucks. Yeah. I mean, this bottle, in fact, I bought up in Winter Park. I saw it on the shelf and I said, well, I guess I'm buying that. And it cost me $100. That's the hard part to swallow about Booker's. But the one thing about it is every time I spend $100 on this, I know for a fact that I'm going to love it. So
that's important.
Yeah. I mean, so there's no guesswork here. It's consistently amazing every single time. It's different every single time. Every release has been different, but it's always been fantastic. And so I know I can trust, maybe once I get that first bottle, if I ever get that first bottle of Booker's where I'm like, meh, I
don't know, man. That is delicious.
It really is.
Now, with that said, and I would drink this every day, given the chance. The legs are fabulous on the glass. Yep. The color's gorgeous. The flavor's amazing. The finish lasts forever.
Yep.
It is a mouthful of bourbon.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
That said, you can definitely, there is something about the older bottles that add a layer to it. And I know they just did the 30th anniversary Booker's, and Fred No's goal was to use a set of barrels that had just been in that Booker's section for years. They were 16 years old. Interestingly, he tried those. He and his son Freddie tried them. They didn't like them that much, and they definitely thought those couldn't be Booker's barrels. Oh, man. And so that 30th anniversary is more 9-year-old Booker's than it is the 16.
Yeah.
I never got a chance to buy that. I would certainly love to.
Right.
But it just tells you something. And I think, and also knowing that Booker himself made this, frankly, he was probably sneaking home like they all do, sneaking home whiskey. Sure. This is probably just what he liked.
Yeah.
And if he liked that, there's got to be something to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think of with the age, we're, like I said, we're drinking what is almost 6 years.
I mean, it's less than half.
2 days. Not even a 7-year-old.
Yeah, it's
whiskey.
less than half of that.
So I mean, going back to the barrel and the knob, if you like cooking, right? Like they always say, take a little bit of the when you're cooking pasta sauce, take a little bit of the water from the pasta itself when you're boiling it, put it in the sauce because it thickens it up.
Yep, the starch
and it coats, and that's what you get with the 14, 15-year-old is like that's a sauce that it's some Italian grandmother in a tiny little Italian village.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, she made that. Whereas like I can make a sauce that's good flavor. But if you don't know those secrets, right?
Yeah.
Like the putting the starch in the sauce to thicken it up and make it coat, you don't know the secrets. That's kind of like, the younger whiskeys. They're really good flavor wise, but there's some little extra magic.
They haven't had time to marry.
Yeah.
I do think that's a good point. That I think that the two we just tasted, the knob and the barrel, very good, but they started out good. Age enhances that.
Yeah.
I don't think you can take age and make poor whiskey good.
Yeah.
So it takes all of that together.
Right.
And I do think that it's a bell curve sort of thing. There is certainly a point at which if it stays in the barrel long enough, nobody wants to drink that.
Right.
It's just too much.
Yeah.
What that is, I don't know, because frankly, 17 or 18 years old is as old as the bourbon as I've ever had. I haven't been fortunate enough to try anything more. But I do think, and so Jimmy Russell, who's the longtime master distiller at Wild Turkey, I mean, he's a 6 to 8 year old person. He thinks 6, 8, maybe 10-year-old whiskey. That's where it's all at.
Yeah.
I think the only reason there's anything older out of that was years ago the export market demanded it, and I think his son Eddie likes older whiskeys. So I think there's just something to be said. Remember, we start with new barrels. A 6-year-old Booker's is not the same as a 6-year-old Scotch that spends its life in a used barrel, where a lot of the flavor has been taken out of that wood.
Yeah.
But that time with a good whiskey, a whiskey that starts off really nice, boy, it just does a lot to it.
Yeah.
Now, if Booker's was $60 and those other two were $100, it's a no-brainer all day long. I'm buying multiples. Basically, I'm buying 3 for every 2 I could have bought of the other ones.
Yeah.
I'm doing that all day long.
Yeah. I'd have a closet full.
It is a little tougher when you're talking about they cost the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think again this boils down to the flavor profile and what you respond to. But I think and even just looking at the 3 that we've tasted, I mean, knob and barrel, a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old, totally different animals.
Yeah.
And then you go down to the Booker's, another totally different animal. My 2 favorites so far are the barrel and the Booker's, of course. And the barrel is just, it's not even the same whiskey to me. Like this could be a totally different drink to me.
Yeah.
But the big thing for Booker's right now for me is that it is getting so expensive that let's see, we just opened that. I have 4 more unopened bottles of Booker's in general, regardless of, I have like 1 more Country Ham and then like a couple other different batches. It's getting harder and harder for me to just pick that off the shelf.
Yeah.
It's an investment and that means that there's other things I can't try.
Well, but there's always something else.
Yeah.
And we'll find that something else. That's kind of our thing, because I don't want to be held hostage.
Yeah.
Look, I don't blame Beam. If I can get 140 for Booker's, I'm going to keep selling it until somebody squeaks and stops buying it.
Yep.
But there's other things. And also, if we normalize the proof, if we took that Booker's and brought it down to 100 like the 15-year-old knob, what would that feel like?
Probably a lot like the knob.
But also, I got to tell you, this is the first time I've had this batch of Booker's. That does not drink 120-something proof.
No, not at all.
In fact, it's not as hot as the 100 proof knob.
And if you remember, we opened that Teresa. Was it the Teresa? No, it was a Shiny Barrel.
Yeah.
We opened it at one of our whiskey nights, and it had everybody around the table coughing because it was hot.
Yeah. It was hot. Yeah, for sure.
This is definitely not that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. So, if the older whiskey is more sought after and matters, I think we both appreciate the complexity of those older whiskeys.
Yeah.
I don't think we're any less happy drinking Booker's.
Not at all. No. Not at all. I would be happier if Booker's was $50.
Yeah. So let me ask you that, though. So in your opinion, if somebody drinks a lot of Booker's, where is it fair?
I mean, because I'm a homer, I think 100 is fair. But, because the flavors
I don't.
are so... Okay, but listen, because I bought my first bottle at 70, don't forget. whereas you bought your first bottle at 50. So for me, there's no frame of reference for it being any cheaper than 70. I would love for it to be 70 again, and I would buy it every time I saw it at 70. 100 in terms of the flavor to me feels fair because it is so excellent, but being selfish, I want it to be at that $70. I would pay. I would be stoked if it was $70.
Yeah, well, coming from my side of the street, which was in the mid 50s, and I bought plenty of them there, and in relation to other whiskeys, which is it's good. I think is a fine segue into the next thing we ought to drink. I think in today's market, if that's a $75 bottle, I'm not buying it every time, but I'm buying one of the batches every time I see it at 75. At 100, I got to say, as much as I like it, and I love Booker's, I have a hard time at 100.
Well, but I mean, for perspective, I mean, you actually texted me yesterday about the Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond, which I actually passed on because it was expensive at the price that
in that particular store.
In that
50 was it 56?
Yeah, right around
for a bottle that has an SRP of 39.
Yeah. And so I've bought 4 bottles of that so far. The first one was 40. The second one was 50.
Yeah.
The third one I traded. So like now I'm like, okay, this is creeping up to the point where I love that. It's a great bottle.
Yeah.
But in a year that's going to be 65.
Yeah, and then so sitting on the table also is the recently released Elijah Craig small batch toasted barrel. It is really good. But
what'd you pay for this?
I paid $50 for that.
Okay.
Now, there's 2 reasons I don't like that price point for that whiskey.
Okay.
One is the regular Elijah Craig small batch is a $28 or $30 bottle.
Yeah. Which by the way is also fantastic.
Very good. Yeah, fantastic. And same proof, so same 94 proof.
Yep.
So is some undisclosed amount of time in an 18-month-old air-seasoned barrel that is then toasted and flash charred, is that part of the process worth $20 more a bottle?
Right.
No, it's just not to me. I think they know that toasted is the new term that all of us can't. It's the new tater term.
Yeah.
That
thank you, Michter's. Yeah.
If they just thank you, Michter's. Thank you, Word for Double Oak. Thank you, Old Forester, 1910. But now, is that where we are? Because now the small batch is not age dated, but they tell you it's 8 to 12 years old based on the batch. I can't imagine that any batch is 12 years old plus another year in the toasted barrels. I still think we're in that same age range. I don't know how long it spends in the toasted barrels, but is that worth $20 when something like Old Tub's a $20 bottle all by itself?
Right. Well, again, I mean, and I don't know. I haven't tasted this yet, but
well, that'll screw it up because it's actually really good. Yeah. It's damn tasty.
I kind of wish I had a bottle of just the regular old Elijah Craig that you can pull off the shelf for $30 because
it's too bad somebody's got like 4 of those in the cabinet.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, I wish I'd have brought those.
Get home, I'll wait. I'll just keep drinking. No, I do like Heaven Hill products, and Elijah Craig is one of my favorites. So I think, to me the baseline whiskey here is good.
Yep.
So the question is, does this light baby blue label make it any different?
And look, the toasting matters.
Yeah.
There's also a whole discussion too, which maybe we'll get into that down the road, is the secondarily finished whiskey still qualify to be called bourbon based on the legal definition of bourbon?
Right.
There's a lot of argument about that. At least that flash charring keeps this a new charred oak barrel, even if it's mostly toasted.
Oh man, I did a Dan pour on my own bottle.
Yeah. You didn't Dan pour me, so I'm done with my Booker's.
Oh, okay. Well,
by the way, the finish is still hanging. It's been 6 minutes since I had Booker's in my mouth. It's still there.
Yeah, I haven't stopped drinking it.
Let's go toasted next.
All right, Elijah Craig toasted.
Now, so toasted, we're going down to 94 proof, somewhere between 8 and 12 years old, not age stated. I don't know that you get any more consistent than Elijah Craig whiskey. And this is the same bourbon as it relates to mash bill, etc. It's the same whiskey you're getting in the Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond.
Yep.
The Henry McKenna 10-year-old single barrel Bottled and Bond. It's in the Elijah Craig barrel proof, same whiskey.
Yep.
And
which all are fantastic, by the way.
And
there's that cork.
And a natural cork.
Yeah. I do love the bottle, by the way.
It's a fine bottle.
Isn't that great? It's such a great shape.
It is a good bottle. And I'll tell you, there's a new thing we're going to talk about is
the wooden tops.
Natural cork diameter.
Oh, okay.
Because if you notice, the barrels are not twice the diameter of the Elijah Craigs, but they're fat.
Yeah.
And there's a different sound.
Well, here, let's, because it makes a fantastic sound, right? Let's have a cork off.
Barrel.
All right, here's barrel. Oh my god!
Oh god! and about a little less than this Elijah Craig, but Elijah Craig. Oh, I lost it a little bit. Let me try again.
Might have gotten wet.
Let me wet it. But
Oh,
that's pretty good.
A little better. Yeah.
that fat cork on the barrel bottle is awesome.
I mean, the barrel is just cheating. Look at that.
Oh, that's fine.
You can make music with that.
And is it silly that we worry about the way the cork sounds? Yes. But it's part of what we do.
We should ditch our intro music and just have cork pops.
Get your own hobby if you don't like cork pops.
All right, so your point. I got to finish. I still need to finish my Booker's.
So I just poured the Elijah Craig toasted barrel. So same as the small batch. It's the same 78% corn, 12. I'm gonna get this wrong off the top of my head. 78% corn, 12% rye, the rest malted barley, I believe, for the standard Elijah Craig bourbon mash bill. But the toasted. So the difference between a charred barrels, they're new barrel. They're charred at a very high temperature for a short period of time, less than a minute. Toasted barrels, lower temperature for a longer time, some number of minutes, to gently bring the vanillins and all the different whatevers out of the barrel. But then they flash char it. And that way I guess that's the way they maintain the TTB regulation of what's a bourbon. It's got to be a new charred oak barrels. When I first opened this bottle, I mean, it was just confectionery. It was cotton candy and marshmallows. And I don't know how a distilled spirit can have such things. And at 94 proof, it's fine. I will tell you this, Dan, as I often do, I tried a little water in this just to play with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take water at all.
Yeah.
If you don't like the way this whiskey sits out of the bottle, do not water it. Leave it on the counter for 10 minutes and let the alcohol evaporate. It doesn't take... This should be a 98 proof whiskey, and it'd be just perfect.
Wow, that is different nose.
Yeah.
Wow. I gotta say, man, before we get going, and because I'm a Booker's homer, that last swallow of Booker's was just mind blowing. But wow, this nose for the Elijah Craig, completely different. Like,
yeah,
what is that
we're gonna have
getting?
you're gonna have to calibrate somehow because
I just took a big swig of water.
yeah, after 120 plus proof, unfiltered, uncut Booker's.
Well, this is the mistake I always make, right? Starting with 116.
Well, we chose to come down in age.
Yeah, but so the 94, and I know what I'm.
And actually, we
looking for.
screwed that up because this is going to be older than the Booker's.
Yeah, right.
We don't know how much
we don't
older,
know.
but it's older.
Yeah. So the Elijah Craig, you know what you're heading for because it is 94 proof and it is the same.
God, that's good.
The same whiskey as the regular. Wow, what is that nose?
You tell me.
Oh, I can't. It's like,
if you watched our videos, you'd know what I think.
wait, we have videos? It's like a little bit of shellac, I think, like in a good way, but like, God, what is that? My gosh, it's a familiar smell that I can't quite place. All right, I should stop sniffing it and start drinking it. Oh wow! Okay, so there's a lot of oak right off the bat, and I think that's the toasted barrel flavor that they want you to get right off the front. Is this so? Okay, so I wasn't listening when you just talked because I was drinking my last bit of Booker's.
I'm used to it.
Yeah. The toasted barrel is not as charred as
Well, so technically a toasted barrel would be charred all. So charring is lots of heat, high heat, short time. Toasting is low heat. So it's barbecue.
Gotcha.
Low and slow.
Okay.
They happen to flash char for a few seconds after.
Yeah.
I think just to be sure they maintain it's really a straight bourbon.
Sure. Man, that is something. That nose.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you what, and I hate that it's $50. I don't think it's a $50 bottle, even in today's market. But I'm getting very good.
I'm getting a ton of oak, like a ton of oak.
Yeah, but it's that sweet vanilla-y oak flavor to me, and that nose thing that I don't know how you will place it, but it's confectionery. It is powdered sugar or marshmallows or cotton candy or something.
It's something I can't quite place it. Like I know it's a familiar smell, but I can't get to it. It's not. You
are sitting next to a partially disassembled motorcycle.
Yeah, which is it completely leaking oil?
Is it an electrical fire smell or
it might just be my carburetors are completely leaking right now. Gasoline. We're actually high on vapors right now. Yeah, I can't quite place it, but it is something familiar. Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know that the oak because to me the oak is really forward, right
It's
off.
rich though, isn't it?
It is. It's lovely. Like
For a 94 proof 8 to 10-year-old whiskey, is
Yeah.
that not rich?
it is. I mean, I think it's an interesting and good flavor profile. I just don't know that I would pay more over the regular Elijah Craig.
And that's my problem. I certainly don't know the true cost
Yeah.
of an additional set of barrels. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's expensive.
Yeah.
But $20?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
20 more, 10 more I might could buy.
Right.
But 10, 20 more dollars
Yeah.
because of a little more.
I might buy it one time. You know what I mean? Just to have it and just to like
Yeah.
to taste exactly what
I
we're
can
doing now.
I can tell you I'm going to buy it more than one time. and look, that's the reality of our world.
Yeah.
I may believe it not to be priced appropriately,
Right.
but I'm not going to let my own assessment of a $10
Right.
differential stop me from enjoying that. I'm just
Yeah.
going to think it really isn't a it's a $40 bottle of whiskey.
Right. Well, and at a baseline, I mean, we both like Elijah Craig, so
For sure.
I think we're
Yeah.
starting from good, and are we going to better? I think is the question. You know,
We're going to different. We are not going to
Different,
better. The
yes.
small batch, the regular small batch versus the small batch toasted. One
Yeah.
to me, one's not better
Yeah,
than the
yeah.
other. It's just they're just different.
right.
Yeah.
So to me, if you feel the same way about Heaven Hill products as I do about Booker's, this would be worth it.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. But I just don't. If I felt like it was a leveled up version of the small batch,
Yeah.
then I'd have an easier time justifying $20.
Yeah.
I just think it's a different version of
Yeah.
this. It's a different whiskey.
Well, and the other thing too about this one is, you know, I always talk about when I talk about young whiskeys, I talk about the flavor profile and the nose being a little bit similar to Grappa, which, you know, people out there might not have actually had, but I happen to travel a lot, so I get Grappa a lot, more than I should. And Grappa is grapes. It's the grape skins and the pits and all that. It's an Italian drink, and to me, whenever I smell a young whiskey, I smell Grappa.
Well, we know this isn't young though.
Yeah, and so to me, that's like the oak, the nose with it's like a mix with that oak and that Grappa. That's what I'm getting. That's the familiar smell I'm getting. And then the taste, I get a little bit of it, but I don't get too much young.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
it's clearly not a young whiskey. At a minimum, this is 8 years old. Yeah, and I could not figure out from websites how long it spends in the toasted barrels.
right. It's good. I mean, it's a good whiskey. I
think it's fabulous.
if I saw it on the shelf, I would grab it
Yeah.
once.
I don't mind the 94 proof. I think it's appropriately proofed.
It's actually kind of hot for a 94.
I'm just warning you, don't put a drop of water. It falls apart with anything more than a scant drop. It
I just
falls
happen to
apart.
have
Try it. See what
right
you
here.
think.
I have some water.
But I tried water, and I do that a lot. I don't generally put ice in it, but I will drop water. I mean, and when I say water whiskey, I'm talking about.
Ooh, that was too much.
Well, you can always change the ratio with more
I
whiskey.
have to pour a little more.
But when I say I water a whiskey, I start with a drop, maybe a half a teaspoon.
Yeah.
It's not very much water. And what I want it to do is let the whiskey air a bit and just let that flavor out. You can do the same kind of thing by letting it sit. And the general rule of thumb is a minute for every year of age. So if you were to take this Elijah Craig toasted barrel, make your pour, sit it on the counter, come back 10 minutes later, you've let some of that alcohol evaporate off.
So what's interesting here to me, for what it's worth, the Booker's is 124.7 proof. The Elijah Craig is 94 proof. The Elijah Craig tastes hotter to me.
It doesn't taste hotter to me, but I can see where it's certainly. If we were to drink these blind, I wouldn't think there was a 30 proof point difference between these.
Yeah.
Maybe 10,
Yeah.
one way or the other, but I wouldn't think 30 proof points difference.
Man, I don't know. It's just hot to me. I don't know. Maybe it's because I came from the other higher proof whiskeys. I don't know, but
Yeah. Yeah, I feel bad for us. We drank all this well-aged high
this is
proof
terrible.
whiskey.
This is really what we do for you. Actually, you know what? That water kind of mellowed it out a little bit. It's nice.
To me, it was as much water as I saw you put in there. It just killed it.
Really?
I tried it the other night. It
I
just killed
disagree.
it for me. Well,
To me, this is a good.
that's why we're
sipper.
here.
Like now with the water in it, I'm like, wow, this is something I'd like
Well,
to.
COVID. I was going to reach out and grab your
Well,
glass
here,
and taste it.
I'll pour a little.
Well,
I'll pour a little in your mouth.
I don't want your COVID either.
Just pour.
I'll
it on
try
your
it
face.
when I get home.
Yeah. No, put a little.
But to me, I had an ounce and a half or two pour.
Yeah.
Dropped maybe a teaspoon of whiskey in it, and it just completely lost its structure to me.
Well, to be fair though, I did pour water in it and then pour more whiskey. So you never know what
It's
I
all
just
about
did.
the ratio.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not one of those guys that's like a
Dan
pro
doesn't just
alchemist.
water whiskey; he waters it in layers.
Yeah.
There's whiskey, water, whiskey, water.
If anybody's actually listening to our podcast, I'd be curious to know if our podcast gets better or worse as we go along in the episode because we get drunker.
To me, it gets much better.
Yeah, I think so too.
And look, and we listen to them after as we edit them. They're still,
Still
of course,
holds
I'm
up.
drinking when I edit them too.
That's the magic of it all.
We may never know what it's like to listen to them sober.
All right, so we
Good.
enjoy. Oh, you already got through that. So we got two more. Give me
Well, I didn't have as much whiskey as far as you know.
I know. I definitely had too much on that one.
Yeah.
Do you want to try a splash of the water?
Okay.
Well, it's COVID. We don't want to do
Don't tell anybody.
that. All right.
Pour me a little bit.
All right. You guys didn't see this. If we both get okay. Is that enough?
The nose is definitely different.
Yeah. So today, just so you guys know, we're in Colorado and the weather's always weird here. Yesterday it was about 90 degrees out.
No, the water it just falls apart.
See, okay,
there's nothing left of
let
that.
me set the scene, right? Like, okay, so it was yesterday it was 90 degrees. Today
Yep.
it's like 57 and beautiful and very fall weather.
Yep.
This is like my sitting by the fire whiskey.
No,
I love it. I think with water this is great.
I think it falls apart.
I think you're wrong.
You know, I miss the entry burst of flavor. That confectionery,
Yeah, but that was
marshmallowy thing is gone for me.
See, that was too much for me. That was like overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I think it just dies. Although, as I sit here and say that, the finish is still going.
Right? So, listen, Mark's wrong.
It's entirely possible. It should be easy for me to recognize when I'm wrong because it happens a lot. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it basically just falls apart.
I think it's smoothed out. I think it's just it's more of those mellow flavors coming through,
Yeah.
but longer.
I will tell you this: that proof hides defects. Mm-hmm. So, and that was a lot of water you put in there. I saw you
Yeah.
do, even if you put more whiskey on it.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That's just a good whiskey.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I would proof this down. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
like I don't know what the number would be, but like an 86 or something would be. I think for this would be fantastic.
Well, and that's why it's nice to have a higher starting point so we can proof it where we want. And that, as we always like to remind you, since we drank a bunch of overproof whiskey tonight,
Yeah.
the purpose is not to see who can drink the hottest whiskey. The purpose is to have a palate to start with
Yeah.
and get it where you want it. And that's, and look, Booker was the same way. I've heard Fredno, his son, in all this whiskiness where people talk about, I can drink all this whiskey. Booker kept a bottle of Perrier on his kitchen counter.
Yeah.
And would pour Perrier into his Bookers to get the way he liked it.
Which I really want to try.
Me too. But
We should do that
You
one
know
night.
what? Drink the whiskey how you like it.
Yeah.
And I just had this discussion with a friend of mine that's really getting into whiskey.
Yeah.
And he says, I tried Booker's. It was just too much. And I went, well, put some water in. He goes, can you do that? It's like, yeah, you can do it. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You want a big ice cube in there? You want some
There are
Diet
no
Coke on it?
rules in Bourbon Club.
There's no rules. Who paid for the whiskey? Said I did. You do whatever you want with it.
You're paying for the water too.
Yeah. And I'm the same way when and you and I do this. We share a lot of whiskey.
Yeah.
If somebody takes it and goes, I like my whiskey with some Coke in it. Well, put some Coke in it. I wish you'd taste it before and see what
we
I
always
see.
get them there though.
But we get you there. But if it takes an old fashioned, or if it takes a Negroni to get you, or a Boulevardier to get you and get you closer to the spirit, do it.
Yeah. I like this Elijah Craig better with water.
Honestly,
I poured way too much, but
You did.
I want you to try this one.
All right, cool.
So
Now we screwed up the whole age thing because we went 15, 14, 6, 8 to 12.
Yeah.
Now we're going to 4.
4.
We screwed it all up.
Yeah, that's not surprising. So I'm part of a.
Tell me what I'm going to plot.
Yeah, so I'm part of a at a local store here. Which, by the way, if you haven't made friends with your local store,
Do that.
do that.
Yeah.
So I'm in a whiskey club, and basically what they do is, they're good customers. They send out an email and say, we've got these great bottles.
Yep.
Once a month, you come grab it. So this was last month's bottle, and we're in Colorado. So this is from Boulder Spirits, which Boulder is in here in Colorado. It's a straight bourbon whiskey. And this one is interesting because it's bottled in bond, which means that it's 100 proof and it's aged at least 4 years.
Yep.
The whole government regulations. That's interesting for a generally not new but new-ish distillery.
There are only a few, and I'm talking a small handful of whiskeys outside the state of Kentucky that are bottled in bond.
Right. So this is distilled here in Colorado.
Yeah.
And if you've heard of Colorado whiskey, you've probably heard of Stranahan's. And so Stranahan's is the big one down in Denver. This is much smaller, Boulder Distillery. I opened this bottle a couple of days ago. It's really interesting. Usually when I get these young whiskeys and from these new distilleries, like I said, there's that shellac kind of taste to me. Mm-hmm. There's that appley kind of taste. Yeah, youth. And I get some of that in this, but I didn't get the first time I drank it. Yep. So I'm curious to hear what Mark has to think about. No. I'm going to let you pour it. I learned my lesson. I'm not going to pour for you anymore.
Yeah, well, I've crossed the line where I should be allowed to pour my own whiskey.
Yeah. So there's now that in my weird garage, there's now a couch in here. So
I hope there's some food in the house.
There's plenty of food. So.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. And so
that's like pepper and some kind of fermented food or something.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not crazy. That's good. That's a good first step. Now, Boulder Spirits, I have to tell you, this is the first bottle of anything, this first sip I've had of Boulder Spirits.
This will be my first sip. Now, tell me, do you know anything about the mash bill? It says bourbon, so we know it's at least 51% corn.
So it's 51% corn, 44% malted barley, and a touch of rye, 5%.
44%? That's a lot. I love that idea.
Yeah.
So you said touch of rye?
Touch of rye, 5%.
But just rye, not malted rye.
It just says rye. I don't know if that's malted rye or rye, but it says rye. But again, bottled in bond, which again I think is fairly unusual for a young distillery.
And look, we're homers about all sorts. I love the bottled in bond designation. Mm-hmm. It just gives you a framework to know what you're getting.
It's funny because every time I go into a liquor store and I see bottled in bond, I'm like, okay, that'll be a good bottle no matter what. So I wouldn't hesitate to buy it. If I can't find anything else, I'm definitely going to buy a bottled in bond.
Yeah. Well, I think that's fair too. You know what it's not.
Yeah.
And that's almost as important as knowing what it is. But I'm looking at this, and bottled in bond whiskeys have to be exactly 100 proof.
Yep.
If you handed me this, age-wise, it's got to be a minimum of 4 years.
Yep.
From the color, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But the legs on this thing are just super thick.
Yes.
I'm excited about this barley component.
I'm not going to lie. This was a surprise for me. What do you think? He's tasting now. He's chewing. What do you think?
I like that.
Yeah.
Shocking,
right?
if we were messing with people, we took a little bottled in bond 4-ish-year-old bourbon.
Yeah.
We slid a little Speyside Scotch in it.
Yeah.
That's what
you get.
That is very, and that pepper.
Yeah.
Note is weird. It comes back on the finish.
Do you get young whiskey in this?
I do. Yeah. And I know it's at least 4, but it definitely tastes young.
Yeah.
I would have guessed smaller barrel, but it says on the bottle it's a 53 gallon barrel.
Yep. I was very pleasantly impressed with this.
Yeah, the finish is quick.
Yep. I mean, yeah, you can tell. I mean, there's things about it. It's got shortcomings, but honestly,
I'm going to sit on that for a minute because I think the finish is quick.
No, I mean that's what my first impression was. I would say, despite its shortcomings, because it is a small distillery, and we talked about this, the smaller distilleries and the problems with starting a distillery, which, you have to source whiskey. I mean, it's hard you can't sit on barrels for 10 years before you release your first whiskey, right? So a lot of these guys...
Don't they do... I just don't... forgive me, I don't know Boulder Spirit. I'm going to find out because this is damn tasty.
It's quite good, right?
But didn't they do some gins and other things in the meantime? Because I don't think they sourced anything.
That I think, so there's other, I'm not sure if you're conflating that with Family Jones.
I don't know.
Yeah, because they're also in Denver, which I have a bottle of that too, with a rye. We could try that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think one of the issues with these, and Mark has said it on other podcast episodes, is that with these smaller distilleries, you really take a risk, and the bottles are always fairly expensive because they're a smaller distillery. And so you don't always get those flavor profiles that are really complex. This has been a pleasant surprise for such a young distillery.
I do get the early char.
Yeah, for sure.
God, there's oranges. Mm-hmm. I mean, like some kind of other tropical thing, like a mango or something in there. It's a wee bit hot, but I
Yeah.
just call that a hug. I mean, it's not like, oh God, that's hot. It's just
Right.
tingly. Mm-hmm. The finish is short.
Yes. Yeah.
That is tasty. What now? So before I ask you what it costs, if I paid $40-ish for that, I'd be super happy. Mm-hmm. I'd pay more than that to support this because this
Yeah.
is a solid effort.
Yeah.
This is an impressive effort.
Yeah. I think I paid 50 for it.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's
I'm
fair.
gonna you know what to support. I'm gonna go find that and buy it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I think this was a fair price for this. And man, I'll tell
That's
you.
crazy. The nose is just like orange. It's like
Isn't
orange
it?
juice.
Yeah. So when I first tasted this, the first impression I got, actually, I should distinguish because the first time I tasted it, it didn't taste super young. The second time I did taste it, it did taste super young. But what I found was I got that young shellac flavor, like I always get with the grappa. But then it kept going. I was like, oh, but there's also orange. Oh, and there's also the cinnamon, and there's also the clove, and there's also it just kept going. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, all right,
The pepper thing just
Yeah.
where the hell did pepper come from?
yeah, isn't it good?
But it's good. That is
Yeah.
fabulous. That fits right in.
Yeah,
Then that's not a 15-year-old whiskey. Nobody's going to ever mistake
no.
that for a 15-year-old whiskey.
for sure.
But if you want to support something and find some people that are doing something different, I mean,
Yeah.
if you did a search for how many bourbons have 40+% malted rye
Yeah,
in their mash bill, you're probably coming up with just that one.
yeah,
That and Chattanooga whiskey, they got
Yep.
a lot of malted grains in their
Yeah.
whiskey. But holy smoke, that's good. And it sits. And I ding the finish, but I'm sitting here, and the malt comes out in the finish. That's where that big malt comes.
Yep.
The pepper and the finish.
yeah,
I mean, that's really good.
yeah. I mean, to me, for a small distillery,
Yeah.
this is a home run.
So Boulder Spirits, straight bourbon whiskey, bottled in bond.
Yep.
Find that, buy that. I don't know what their distribution is. Is that a Colorado only distribution, or are they?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like I said, this was a pleasant
Because we're
surprise.
selfish, we can get it. We don't really care
Yeah,
what else
screw
we
you
get.
guys.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I got to say, I've lived in Colorado for 3 years. I've tried quite a few different Colorado spirits to try and support the local thing.
Yeah.
I've been disappointed most of the time.
Yeah.
That is,
Quite good.
and I'm going to recant on the finish because that is going.
It's going.
Yeah,
We should,
not huge, but
we
it's
should
going.
take a trip. We should take.
We
a trip
should.
to
We should go
Boulder.
see those folks.
Yeah. I mean, like I said,
I mean, clearly they'll know who we are.
yes, obviously, for all the three of the listeners that we have. They'll
Yeah,
probably,
if one of y'all's in Colorado, tell those guys to let us in.
well, basically, we're talking to our wives and like one other person.
My wife doesn't listen to this.
I don't think mine knows either. She hears.
I
me
mean, she
talking
hears
about
me record a lot of
it.
things.
Yeah. So tangentially, she's heard you.
Kind of.
All right, so
And
we
she's
got
heard
one-
me talk for 30 years.
Yeah. Oh, that's enough. Yeah.
That's a different.
It's well-aged.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah. Took a dark turn.
Oh, that's fabulous,
Isn't it?
and I think it fits perfectly. So
Yeah.
here's a bottle. It's a different discussion on whether that $50 bottle stacks one way or the other against the Elijah Craig $50 bottle,
Right.
and what that stacks against the $100 bottle of the others.
Yeah.
But man, it's just good. So
Yeah.
I think independent of that, I'd be pretty happy with that. And that's, by the way, that it's probably pretty close to 4 years just to make that bottled and bond designation. But
Right.
that's a pretty decent color on it.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this too. I was hanging out down at Spirits, and a customer came in and she said, "I want to buy some bottles for my boyfriend. He's really into whiskey." And Casey said, "Well, what does he like?" And she's like, "He likes the story of the whiskey."
There you go.
And I think if you're into that, I mean, and that's valid to me. Like he was really into the what's the one that's distilled out at sea or aged out at sea, the
Jefferson's Ocean. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was really into that because he liked the story of it, and I think with the story, I think that's cool too. But you can go very wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm a sucker that way.
Yeah. So to me, this is a good story. It's a young distillery. It's an upstart distillery, but it also has the good flavor. So I think if you're willing to experiment,
that's tasty.
That's a good. That's a
So
safe
what have
bet.
we learned tonight, Dan? And before we
We got the mellow corn still.
I know. I really, frankly, I
plastic
didn't intend that to be part of the podcast. I bought that so you could.
Well,
I,
it's here.
I
We
brought
should
that
try
so
it.
you could taste. Well, I have tasted it.
Should we do an open the bottle of that?
I did.
Well, I mean, I haven't done it.
We have a YouTube channel.
Wait, we do.
You could watch. You could watch that.
I don't watch our videos. I don't listen to our podcast. I've never been to our website.
All right, so everything's bourbon.
Yeah.
Now we're going to drink a straight corn whiskey, which I did not know, by the way, that straight corn whiskey has a completely different designation, or at least rules around it. So straight corn whiskey has to be at least 80% corn. It cannot be aged in a new charred oak barrel like bourbon must be aged in. It can be a charred oak barrel, but it has to be used, or it could be a new uncharred barrel.
That's so many rules.
It's a lot of rules.
Yeah.
Different rules.
But there's corn.
So you mentioned it too. What'd you say the color looked like on that?
Oh, like a white wine.
It looks like a white
Yeah.
wine. It does look like a Chardonnay.
All right.
But let's pour a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll end on a festive
It's
note.
so bizarre looking. I mean, it's funny too because sorry. This has like a cult following. This is like an 80s horror movie.
It does. It's become the new thing in trendy bars to have cocktails based around mellow corn.
It has almost no nose.
And for the record, this is in all seriousness, Heaven Hill produces this product. It's an old product. Straight corn whiskey. Now, it has to be at least 80% corn. This one, I think, is 90% corn. The balance is some rye and malted barley. This is bottled in bond, so at 100 proof. I don't know what else to tell you. It's $14 a bottle.
It looks like Chardonnay.
It looks like Chardonnay.
It actually, okay. So
It does not taste like bourbon at all.
No, the nose takes a while to get. I had to sniff it twice to get the nose.
Look, it's mellow.
Yeah, it is very mellow. This is a very dazed and confused drink. All right, so the nose is you got to work hard for that nose.
I'll tell you what, I'm liking it more and more.
So, all right, when you
This is
opened
my
it,
third time.
So, for those of you who haven't watched the open the bottle, what was your first impression of this? Because I haven't taken my first sip yet.
The first impression was I have no idea what this is.
It's not bourbon.
I don't know what to think of it. It's not bourbon.
Yeah, somebody told me at the liquor store the other day that it tastes like orange soda, and I'm
I could buy the cream soda. I could certainly orange cream soda.
Right.
So the thing is though,
while you're talking, I'm going to take my first.
Go
sip.
ahead. To be a corn whiskey, at least 80%. There's certainly plenty of bourbons that have 80% corn in them. We drank one tonight, so I think the Dickel Mash Bill's 84% corn.
What is that?
But this is 90% corn.
What is that?
It's moonshine, really, that somebody put in a barrel of some description.
What is that?
It's corn whiskey, man.
I mean, it's not bad, but it's like, what is?
It's not. That's the thing. It's not bad, but I don't know what it is.
It's like I would drink it fine, but
I made some red beans and rice the other night, and I
Yeah.
drank it while I was cooking.
yeah.
It went well with the aromas of onions and bell peppers. And
I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but I would totally throw this in a flask and bring it with me on a bike ride or like camping. What is
okay. Why wouldn't you do that with bourbon?
that? I mean, sure, but if I was, wandering through, the backwoods stores and they had mellow corn on the shelf. I can't place the flavors.
And every time so I had it the first night. I did the video, which I don't think I've released yet. We'll probably have the podcast released before the video goes live. And then I drank it while I was eating, and I enjoyed it. It felt savory because all the savory flavors of me cooking with onions and bell peppers were in the air.
Yeah.
And now when I drink it, though, I get an orange creamsicle sort of thing. I get.
There's some sort of dessert flavor.
It's really just candy corn.
Yeah.
Halloween candy corn.
That's it.
No big surprise. This is 90% corn.
The candy corn is it, I think.
And I don't know. So you got to figure. So the rules are it can be in a charred barrel. It's got to be a used charred barrel.
Yeah.
Or it can be in a new barrel, an uncharred new barrel.
Yeah.
You got to figure Heaven Hill's got a pile of used barrels around. This probably went in a used bourbon barrel. But I can't tell that.
Right.
I don't taste any char.
Right.
I don't taste any bourbony flavors.
I don't either.
I'm guessing it went in the new barrel.
It really looks like it too. So,
There's the label has far more color than the whiskey.
it seriously looks like Chardonnay or like apple cider or something. Like
I don't dislike it though.
No, I don't.
But
either.
I tell you what though, because people I would say, hey, I drank some mellow corn.
Watch this. Hold on. We're gonna put the barrel. Look at that.
Oh,
the
goodness.
barrel
Yeah,
next. Take a picture of that.
let me
The
get-
barrel bourbon next to the mellow corn could not be any more different. It looks like two different
Let me
drinks.
get Grammy.
Yeah, that's for the gram for sure. We need to put that on Instagram. Go to Instagram and look at this one because the colors could not be any more different.
Yeah.
There's a reason that the label is bright yellow.
And I don't dislike it, but then when I tell people I tried some mellow corn, they go, "Well, is it cheap?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cheap. And I got thinking, well, an Evan Williams bottled and bond,
Right, it's the same
only,
price.
It's only like $1 more.
Yeah.
So I bought a bottle of that yesterday, so that I can go, okay, I got $14 to spend, or $15 to spend. It's just different.
Yeah.
So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to enjoy that bourbon just because I'm a bourbon guy.
Yeah.
But the more I drink this, the more I think, it's a nice change of pace.
For sure.
And cocktail-wise, there's a tequila cocktail called a
Yeah.
Matador.
Yeah.
Which is 2 parts Reposado tequila, so a lightly aged, 3 to 6 month aged tequila,
Right.
and 1 part dry vermouth. I think that dry vermouth might play well in this, so I'm gonna try those things. I'm gonna try a little dry vermouth, maybe.
It probably has some vermouth inside. We could.
Well, so maybe 2 parts mellow corn, a
Yeah.
half part dry vermouth. I'm gonna shake it, bruise it up a bit.
Yeah.
Put a little lemon zest on top of it.
So this reminds me of the bourbon equivalent of this thing called Tingala. Have you ever had this?
No.
So Tingala. All right. So if you ever go in a liquor store and the owner says, "Hey, you got to try this Tingala," sit down. Because you're gonna.
What is it?
It's. I don't even know what it is, but it's this. I gotta do some research, but I had some, and this is exactly what happened. I walked into the liquor store and they said, "You got to try this drink," and you try this, and it makes your tongue go numb.
Oh, nice. That's always good.
But it's good, and it's a very honey flavor. It's not a whiskey. It's whatever it is. It's fantastic.
Honey
but it's,
flavored,
and your tongue goes numb literally for like 10 to 15 minutes. And it's really good.
But
it's
why
really
is that
interesting.
good though? If your tongue goes,
I don't know. But it's an interesting flavor. It's not something I would want to drink often, but once in a while I'd be like, "Oh, Tingala, yeah, give me some of that." That's kind of how I feel about this mellow corn.
Yeah.
If it was on somebody's shelf and they were like, "Hey, have some of this mellow corn,"
Sure.
I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah, I will."
But what else you got?
Yeah, I want to try. I want to start with the mellow corn.
I'm gonna tell you what. And look, there's other corn whiskeys on the market, straight corn whiskeys. So Balcones does a few different straight corn whiskeys, a blue corn straight corn. But Jesus, those are $50 or $60 or $70 a bottle.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, I'd like to try it,
Whoa.
but
that sip tasted like the Shawshank Redemption right there. I don't know what that was.
not the part where he's crawling through 500 yards of
no,
filth
like when
and
he's
freedom.
walking toward the nice tree. That's
Okay, that's good.
a little rough, but okay. Yeah. That went down the wrong pipe.
Oh man! All right, well we blew up the recording there with the
It was like an
laughter.
hour and a half. Are we?
But I hope you forgive the clipping for the fact that we were really excited about something.
That was
Cool.
fun.
This has been good. So do we decide? We decide age matters.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
There's some complexity you can't get any other way than age. But
Yeah.
we also decided that some of our favorite whiskeys don't have to be that old.
Yeah, flavors are not exclusive to age.
Yeah, for sure. And
yeah.
so if you haven't had Booker's, try that. Forgive the fact
sure.
that they put that stupid wax all over it. Which
Yeah,
I
it's
hate the
pretty dumb.
wax.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. That one did open easier than most.
Yeah.
But it also flung wax all over
But
the
hey,
place.
the dark horse of the day.
Boulder Spirit. I think that's it. So no surprise, aged whiskey's good. No surprise that if you buy barrel bourbon for $100, it's tasty.
Yeah.
No surprise, a 15-year-old Knob Creek is good. You
Yeah.
know what's a surprise? A bottled and bond whiskey from Colorado that's probably just barely 4 years old is really good.
It was excellent. Yeah.
And I dare to say, if we had started this night with we're going to try this whiskey and see if it's any good, we'd have been blown away by that.
Yeah, yeah.
The only reason I'm kind of blown away anyway, but the
Yeah.
only reason we weren't completely blown away was what came before it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you have access to that whiskey, give it a shot.
Yep.
If you don't remember what it is, check the show notes. I'll put links to their website in the show notes as
Yeah.
we get going.
I think this is worth an Instagram shot of just.
I think so.
Yeah,
Hang on. Let's do that.
I mean, and the label's quite good too. They
The
clearly put a
label
lot
is
of care
very
into
nice.
this.
They put some thought into that.
And that's tricky too because a lot of the best labels look kind of. I mean, they look
do.
nice,
They look a little corny.
Yeah.
Now, since we've been dinging people for stoppers, that's That is the exact same stopper that's in the old tub whiskey for $18. I mean, it can't be. They gotta got that the same. It's the exact same.
You ordered that from like Uline or something.
I mean, something. That's. I need a stopper that doesn't top a cent.
Yeah.
That's it. And look, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Synthetic corks, frankly, they're gonna stop air from getting into your bottle better than a natural cork. But by God, it's the one thing I care about.
Can we? There's the barrel.
There's the barrel. Do it again. Do it one more time.
We're gonna close the show with one more pop. Ready? All right. This is the barrel.
Here we go. Come on. There you go. It's beautiful.
Guys.
All right. So if you want more cork pops like that, hang out with us on social. So the Practical Still Instagram and Twitter. The website, The Practical Still, is where we kind of bring all this stuff together. The Practical Still Instagram, or where we do the quick takes on stuff we're opening, stuff we're going back to later with the Back to the Bottle videos, and do we like them a month later as much as we liked them or didn't like them in the first place. And then, all the podcast platforms, so iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, we're on all those. And if you have any questions, on thepracticalstill.com, there's an ask button. Ask us questions. We'll certainly go, and we're going to go buy a bunch of whiskey anyway. Let us know which ones you want us to buy. We could appreciate the input.
Yeah, we'll buy it before you do and save you some money.
Yeah, save you some cash if it's no good at all. But I think the big thing is there's good whiskey out there, and we want to make sure everybody finds the ones you can find. It's allocation season. Don't sleep in a parking lot. Don't pay $400 for a bottle that should be $100. We're giving you the information you need to find good stuff that's reasonably priced you can buy today. So do that and let us know what you're finding out there and what you want to hear us talk about. Dan, this has been great.
Yeah,
the garage was awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't our fault the sirens were going, so that's good. I don't need to get arrested again.
A couple, it might have been us. I don't know. I did take my pants off halfway through. So.
Well, you got to be comfortable when you drink whiskey.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so there you go. Check us out. Let us know what you think. And other than that, cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.